from a few people who said they couldn't make it, so they were asking about a recording, and we're happy to do that, as well as I will also add a live transcript. Okay. So welcome to our first very informal meeting of collection development practitioners, people who are interested in collection development, people who build their collections. This is a very informal user group. And since there are only 6 of us here today, let's do some quick introductions. I'm Shawn Brummer, and I am the Youth Services and Community Engagement Consultant from the South Central Library System. And I'm going to go over to Mark, who is next to me in my screen.
Hi everyone, I'm Mark Yoakum, Workforce Development Consultant at South Central Library System. I also work with Shawn frequently on inclusive services topics.
I don't know who's next, but I'll go. I'm Tracy Miller. I am the Public Library Administration Consultant at South Central, and I work multiple topics with everybody there, and Shawn and I work on intellectual freedom and First Amendment audits. So we take care of that topic together.
Great. Matt, would you feel comfortable going next?
Yeah, I'm Matt Heindel. I'm the Technical Services Coordinator at the Monona Public Library. And as far as collection development goes, I basically do all of the material selection for pretty much all adult materials and all AV materials. And I will not infrequently lend a hand with youth services when they get too busy.
Thank you. Courtney, would you feel comfortable going next?
Yeah, sure. And I was actually going to say, I hope it's okay that I'm here. I didn't know it was the first meeting, but it seems like I'm okay that I'm here. I am Courtney. I am the Adult Services and Outreach Manager at the Waunakee Public Library. I'm in charge of ordering all of adult nonfiction, adult audiobooks, and adult music. And I think that might be everything, but yeah.
It's a lot. Thank you, Courtney. And finally, Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody Moorbacher. I'm at the Downtown Central Library. I am Youth Services Collection Development, so I do half of the collection. Holly Stork Post is my counterpart, and we split collections. So I do mostly middle grade in teen fiction and teen nonfiction, graphic novels, audiobooks, playaways, audio-enabled books, things like that.
Thank you, Jody. So we have a variety of selectors and collection development, collection builders here today, which I'm glad. I was hoping that that would be the case. And we checked our equipment, so everybody's equipment is working. You all sounded great. We also have chat. So with a small group like this, you're welcome to just unmute and chime into conversations. Feel free to send chat questions or messages, and we're going to keep things really informal and easy today. Oh, I did not ask, maybe if you feel like trying out the chat function. My chat question was, what are you reading today? And thought that might be a fun way to get started. I will put what I just finished late last night. And it was Matrix by Lauren Groth.
Lauren Groth.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody. It was my book, even though it was a brief book, it took me a bunch of days to finish it. It was kind of intense, but I liked it. Okay. In today's agenda, I kept things very, very simple. I'm just looking, oh, there's a new Craig Thompson book I haven't heard about. Thank you, Matt. In today's agenda, I have a link to what will be our meeting notes. Right now, it's basically a copy of this agenda, but feel free, you all have access to those meeting notes. If there's anything that you want to add to the meeting notes, feel free to add them, open up those notes and add them, and I'll clean everything up a little bit later today. So we have the meeting notes. I made up some topics because this is our first meeting. I didn't want to, you know, I don't have the topic ideas. I wanted us to come up with things that we might be talking about in the future, or what needs you may have. So I just put down in discussion D, it says identify topics to discuss. So I just grabbed a few ideas, book display ideas. Next week is Banned Books Week, unique collections at your library. We certainly do not have to talk about these topics, but I wanted to plant a few seeds. I also wanted to let you know that we have a collection development webpage at South Central that I haven't updated for a while, and maybe Tracy and I can look at that soon, as well as we have an intellectual freedom page too, which I forgot to link to, but we'll link to that in the notes. So asking those of you who are here today, when you heard about the collection development check-in meetings, what were some things that you were thinking of? What can be helpful for you? Or what would you like to talk about in the future, today? I know it's a very big question, but right now we're just forming. And Tracy and Mark, I don't know if you want to jump in either.
Oh, I'll jump into, because this kind of, for those that may not have known, this came from the Innovation Library Subcommittee meeting, is where the idea of the collection management group kind of came from that. And their idea is that we could talk about how to build and broaden certain parts of collections. Like if you're going to have a better manga collection, how do you go about finding that material? What do you need to have in the collection? For specific libraries that want to, we want to have this for our patrons. Another idea was can't think of the name of it, but it was the particular movies. Do you remember the name? A particular genre of movie, more classics, I guess.
Yeah, the classics.
Type, first off, where do you find to buy those? Because, a lot of times it may be something that's not being produced anymore. So it was ideas, and then it just kind of grew from there that, it could really be any kind of topic on about collections. I think we kind of want to, since we do have the separate intellectual freedom part. I mean, not that we can't talk about it here, but maybe we kind of want to veer a little bit away from that and focus on how to build those collections and the thought process that we have to go through nowadays to, what reviews are we using, that sort of direction in selections. I don't know if that's how the group will end up going, but this is such new in the infancy of how to build this group. We're really not sure exactly what everybody might be looking for, the questions that people might have.
I guess I personally was kind of just curious to hear other people's kind of item selection and ordering processes, because I have kind of my whole workflow of kind of what I consider for making selections and how I kind of put my ordering lists together. And then what I, you know, what I actually do for like ordering and then processing things. And sort of curious about if people have methods for sort of streamlining things, or if they're all just kind of taking shots in the dark. I mean, I hope not, but you know, I have, like I said, my whole kind of way of doing things, and have been doing things the way I do it pretty much the whole time I've been here at Monona. So it's a bit hard to kind of break out of my particular pattern. So I thought it might be helpful to hear other ideas or what other folks might do. Because like I said, it's pretty, for so much of the item selection and for all the ordering, it's just me. So I kind of have my way of doing things that I'm comfortable with, but am interested to hear if there are other ways that work for other folks.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of why I want to be part of the group too, is I'm kind of set in my ways. I mean, I check the new release calendar on Baker and Taylor, I read book list, library journal. And honestly, even after those things, I feel like there's a lot of overlap already. But I'm definitely open to new avenues of, and, you know, I check the whole, not the whole shelf action, purchase alert report. Yeah, beyond those 4 things, I'm kind of just at a loss. I don't know if there's things I'm missing, or maybe it's, and nonfiction has never done great here. You know, it kind of goes up, you know, maybe 1 to 5% on a good month. So that's kind of where my focus is, adult nonfiction. I would love to ramp that up somehow.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same things I'm thinking about, because I always see other locations ordering books ahead of time where they're out there, and it's just like, how can they do that? How can they order so early? How they're so on top of it, you know? And I feel like I'm just barely getting the newest books out like within 2 weeks or so, but yeah, I feel fairly new. I think I've been in this role for about almost 3 years, coming up on 3 years. And just as a new selector, there's a lot of things I'm wondering about. It's like, do you have schedules? What resources do you use? How do you keep track of those manga titles? And how do you, it's like, is it better to be on standing order and just get them coming, because you don't want to have to keep on remembering it? There's another one coming up in 2 months. I'm also wondering about like upkeep of online book lists. It's like, who does that? Are selectors in charge of that? Because I do a lot of book lists, and it's just like, how do you promote that? How do you promote that to staff, to patrons, even the promotions of new books? How do we do a reader's advisory to our staff to let them know that there's new books that they can promote as well? And I'm really big on doing diversity audits on my orders, so that I'm keeping track of certain collections to know, what I'm ordering and to which locations. I'd like to know if other locations are doing similar things.
I'm just curious, do any of you post for patrons to see, like New York Times bestseller? I mean, do you print it out and just have it there so they know? I mean, I know there's a lot of non-new books on there as well, books that have been on there 300-400 weeks, but do you print anything like that out weekly, or like what's coming out, the top, kind of like how when you walk into Barnes and Nobles and they'll have the one little section there where it's all the new books that just came out in the past month, and they'll have them ranked or whatever, and then they kind of change that out. Do you do anything like that?
It might be different at each location for us, but it's just, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we don't really have a good place to sort of post a list like that in my opinion, wouldn't just be kind of like more kind of visual noise.
Okay.
You know, we have our new material shelves, and we have our display with like our walk-in materials,
Mhm.
but that's kind of that's kind of the extent of it. I years ago worked at the Milton Library in Rock County, and I remember I really liked one of the methods that they used to promote the new movies is that they would take those sort of paper cardboard sleeves that come on so many DVDs and just tape those up on like there was before they remodeled, they had these like double doors close to the desk. They just tape a bunch of those up by the main desk so people could just look and see like, oh, that came out, and we might not have it on hand, but they knew that it was available to at least place on hold.
Right.
But again, not everybody has a sort of space like that where patrons can easily see it, and it's not just like something that they're going to look right past because there's so much other stuff for them to pay attention to.
Right.
Yeah, our director kind of hates paper, and now I'm starting to hate paper. So, but I like that idea. I do think we definitely have patrons who would like that, who would grab something like that off of the shelf, just a printout. But yeah, I'm trying to imagine a place that it would look aesthetically pleasing, which I get way too wrapped up in aesthetics, but I'm sure, yeah, that's probably a good idea. At my old library, they would print out a huge poster of like upcoming releases. Obviously you could just see the covers and the titles, but I thought it was kind of a good idea. Just, I can't really, same thing. I can't really think of a spot in Wanakee where it would look good and people would actually look at it.
What about, and of course, you know, you don't catch all your patrons with this. It would just be the ones that actually use your website. But, and I know, you know, everybody's getting updated, but does the new website still have kind of like the slides that kind of go through? Maybe it could be an additional slide where it's, you know, you highlight, and you know, one new book that's coming, or you know, a couple like coming soon, and maybe, you know, picture 3 books or something like that, and it just kind of rotates, you know, every other week or something like that, to just keep putting new material. And maybe that's a way you don't have the paper in the library, but you're still advertising, oh, hey, if this is one of the authors you like, maybe you can get on the hold list, you know, before it gets out, get your name on there so you're in the rotation to get it, you know. I don't know how the new Drupal is going yet. I haven't had time to play with it.
I feel like my instinct would be like, not that patrons are, I don't know, at least in my experience, patrons aren't necessarily coming up when I'm on desk and asking like, what's new? But I feel like it's an opportunity to point them to the resources on LinkCat, that the monthly and kind of the ongoing weekly sort of lists are such a great and pretty well maintained resource that if anyone was wondering what's new, I would just say, just look here. Like you'll be able to see very quickly what's new. And again, perhaps eliminate the need for actual sort of paper printed lists. And LinkCat also has access to, I think they have links to like the New York Times lists and other kind of bestseller lists, I think.
Sometimes I feel like it's just putting up QR codes that will link to all these lists everywhere, but I haven't tried that out yet. It's still in the makings for me.
I'm thinking about myself as a library user, and when I go into libraries, and all 3 of your libraries actually are all in kind of my area, that I love looking through the new book lists. That is, I feel like I'm going shopping, you know, for myself, and just how beautiful the visual aesthetics of your new books areas catch me every time. And I remember when I worked at libraries, that's where everybody went to. Like that's that prime real estate where, you know, we're finding new things. I always discover new things.
I guess the one resource that we have that people will actually take to maybe sort of keep them up to speed with new materials is we have a subscription to Book Page where we get, you know, I don't know, however many copies per month that we set out for people to just take. And they always, like, I'd say within 2 or 3 weeks, like before the end of the month, they're always gone. We keep a copy to circulate. But yeah, those obviously, you know, grab at least a certain amount of our patrons' attention.
Do you use BookPage as like a tool to your collection development?
Me personally, not so much, because so often what they're covering has already been kind of in the journals like a few months ahead of time.
Right.
You know, at least in my world, like the sort of press and reviews and the kind of established word for them is already kind of out and about for the most part. I've found a few odds and ends through BookPage that I might not have ordered otherwise, but it's not necessarily like a go-to for me.
Right. Right.
Where are you all going to get information about what's coming up? What is going to be published in the coming months? Do you have any favorite resources?
If no one else has any input, I'll go ahead. I use Booklist month to month. We had, I think, a trial to like Library Journal for a while, but I'll just like use the sort of like shared copies that get sent through delivery, and if as long as it gets to me like close enough to when it's actually useful.
Yeah.
And then I'll flip through the New York Times book review. I actually just got, I'm not sure if anyone gets this, for independent stuff, Forward. I'm not even sure how we started getting this sent to us, but we did. And I don't always find a lot, but this is for like independent and small press stuff specifically. And then I have a lot of other specific resources based on the type of material. So like for music, for example, I'll comb through the latest reviews on Pitchfork. I'll take a look at the new music or like the editor's choice or like highlights on allmusic.com. Those are kind of good ways for me to kind of find out what's out there kind of beyond necessarily just like the chart topping stuff. I've made purchases based on looking at like show listings in town and seeing what's selling out. That's helped. For comics and graphic novels, the Comics Journal has a weekly roundup of review links that I look at. Like they have a weekly roundup of links of all types related to comics news. So they have different sections about like news, articles, interviews, blah, blah, blah. They have a whole section of just reviews from various outlets online. And that's also helpful to kind of get an idea of what might be worth looking out for graphic novel wise. For movies, I know I'm going on and on. For movies, I'm trying to remember what it's even from here. I found a listing on a website, and I know like Baker and Taylor has their own sort of release calendars. There's this website I came across called The Digital Bits that has their own kind of release calendar that I really like because it's pretty comprehensive and easy to navigate, like big visuals of the covers and everything. That's been useful to keep up to speed on those sorts of things. think that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Thanks, Matt. That's a great list. I'll add those to the notes.
Does anybody use NPR's book lists?
Yeah, not the month. Do they have a monthly one? I'm sure they do.
I mean, I don't know. I usually just go, to the website and was like, oh, what's on NPR's? But
yeah, like, so their book page and the New York Times book page are great if I have some more downtime to like actually do some reading, not, just more in-depth reading about a book. I love NPR's, like that book list concierge thing that comes out every year.
I love
basically,
that.
I pick all my book club books through that thing. Yeah, and it's, as far as music goes, I feel like music is just, I'm also in charge of, we got a vinyl collection, which is exciting and it's doing well. But as far as CDs go, it's like, I'm just so not interested in it anymore. So either because they're not circling well, or because I'm not putting any like extra effort into it. So is it not circling well because I'm not putting extra effort, or is it just because CDs are kind of dying a little bit? It's probably both.
All the streaming.
Yes, it's hard to compete.
Yeah,
so,
it's tough. It's really
yeah.
tough.
Yeah. The
Well, you
vinyl
could
was like
Apple and you could just, listen to it right this minute,
Yep, for sure. $5 a month, like all access to any music you would need, basically. So it's a hard competition, but yeah. So for music, I'm really not buying more than just the chart topping stuff, but I like seeing who's in town. I think that's a good idea, to get some more, just some more local circs.
One thing for movies that I used to do, is I kind of wait until after the Academy Awards. And then I'd find out who won all the awards. And then I'd make sure that all of those were on my, because we had such a limited budget and I can only purchase so much. It's like, okay, I want the biggest bang. Let's get what won the awards. And I know that those would probably circulate because everybody would be talking about them. So that was one resource that I used.
I use Publishers Weekly's on sale calendar. So right now they have new books coming out until December 2022. So they also have a children's books list, which I print out and I just kind of go through that to see what's the biggest publication, the numbers, follow the numbers and just kind of check the titles, make sure that they're within my selection field, and I'll go off of that. Lots of awards that come out. I follow a lot of awards, and also on Twitter. I use Twitter to follow authors, publishers, just people who are like professors or talking about children specifically and teens. I follow them to get information about what they like or what they're reading. Let's see, Book Riot is also very good for teens and children. They have a lot of lists, a lot of themes that come out of them, and just a lot of information. So.
Isn't there a new, like a new type of Twitter that's just for books? Haven't I seen that kind of like slowly being advertised, where it's like a,
I know they call it book Twitter, and there's like Instagram for books, like
yeah, where it's just specific for books in that, doing it like that, like the Twitter feeds and all of that.
There's TikTok,
like Instagram book or something
TikTok
like that.
Books, stuff like that, just to kind of see trends that are coming in and out. But
yeah,
it's hard to follow everything.
It's true. Yeah. I was actually listening to one of Book Riot's. They have a podcast that they do every week where they give all the new books being published that week. So when I get a chance, I try to listen.
One other resource that I'll refer to, especially if I'm having trouble filling out an order, we use Ingram for most of our print material ordering, and they have lots of lists of under various sort of interest categories that they update. I think it seems like every 6 months or so. on kind of like a rotating basis. And those are good to check out if it feels like, oh, I haven't bought a lot of like this kind of material or this kind of material lately. So they have, you know, broken down to adult, children, teen. I'm just looking at it right now. And then just different interest areas or sort of cultural areas. They also have sort of the monthly list that they maintain of sort of potentially popular or high interest titles, just new releases coming out. So if I feel like I haven't, like, you know, again, can't quite fill out an order, I'll take a look at those and see if there's something that I hadn't thought of that pops up there. The vendor, I'm always surprised at like sort of how much effort the vendors put into these sorts of lists, but I guess it serves them to have us buy more stuff from them.
I use Ingram too a lot, and I use their lists. They also, you can sign up for lists to be sent to you based on whether they have star reviews or not, and then they send out the reports like twice a month, once on the 1st and once on the 15th, and then I use those lists a lot too to order.
Thinking about Courtney's question earlier about nonfiction, and I'm wondering if some of those vendors lists might provide a little more help, you know, might list some of those, especially if we're looking at subject categories.
Yeah, we use Baker and Taylor, and I'm not sure, but I've never really looked for their interest list before. If I want to fill out a section, which we haven't really done a whole lot of because we haven't done any weeding in 3 years because of item counts, but if I do want to like add some more, let's say in computer help or something, I usually just search by Dewey number, but the lists sound great and probably more concise to what I'm looking for. So I should check out B&T for that.
I don't know if folks have used this, but there are also various library associations that might have lists, such as the American Indian Library Association, Black Caucus American. I'm on the Inclusive Services page at SCLS where we have those resources listed, but just groups, different various groups and library associations that might have lists and resources. There's one that I came across that was Africa Access, so Read Africa. So if you're looking for books that are that center Africa, or there's so many different groups and resources that at least you can hopefully be a little bit more confident in like the representation of folks in their materials. So.
Thanks, Mark. That also reminds me, and this is kind of related to Jody's earlier comment about diversity audits, is that I've found that some independent bookstores, you know, around the nation really publicize books from small presses. So a couple of the books stores that I follow are Baldwin and Company from New Orleans. It's a Black-owned bookshop. Of course, we have Room of One's Own here in Madison. The Birchbark Books in St. Paul, Louise Erdrich's bookshop. And I'm wondering if, and you know, I just follow them for personal interest, but I want to dig around a little bit now on those bookstore websites and see what they recommend. And I follow them on Instagram, you know, so I get to see the beautiful covers and see the graphics and the artwork, the creativity that people put into publicizing some of the newer books, especially books that, aren't coming from Penguin Random House, that are coming from smaller presses. I'll link to those in the notes.
Yes, A Room of One's Own actually went viral with their flyers of book readers advisory. You should check it out, but they just have books like, if you haven't read, if you want to read or know more about Olivia Butler, then they just said you should try this if you like this or that. But it went viral. I think it was a New York Times article too about it, but they have a lot of really good flyers and stuff like that out right now.
To check that out. And I think more and more as both a librarian and as a reader, that's where I get excited about new books, when I see what people are talking about. In addition to, school library journal and book list, but I like kind of the crowd sourcing. Is that the correct use of that term? Of this is what readers are doing. It's changed everything from my early days of collection development. Things are much more in the hands of readers. How often do you all receive book purchase suggestions from community members?
I get maybe one or two every couple weeks. And a lot of times we just buy them. There's a few reasons for that. Unless it's like a super old book, although I did just buy like a biography of C.S. Lewis that was 20 years old for a patron who was very appreciative of it. But as long as they're not super, super old, I usually buy them. Because it's just so rare that we get them. 1 to 2 a month is totally within our budget. And, sometimes they're on topics that are not going to circ well. A lot of times they're like political books that are not as well known. And I think it's, maybe they feel like that opinion is underrepresented in our library. So I feel like just saying yes makes them feel like their voice is being heard. So there might be a little bit of like a defense mechanism behind buying some of them, but if it ended up being, if it was 15 to 20 a month, we would reconsider, but it's just so rare that we usually just buy them.
Yeah, I get maybe not too often, maybe get 1 or 2 just like a month or so, but it depends. And I might sort of keep them around and refer to them if I decide not to purchase right away, and sort of see, oh, maybe I'll purchase later, or maybe we'll just request it on our library loan if it doesn't really seem like something that's worth purchasing. So yeah, it depends. There was a patron that like requested a particular parenting book, but it seemed like we might have enough recent resources in that regard that we didn't need to buy another one. In some cases, like one person requested like a specific like Disney pop-up book. We don't purchase or circulate pop-up books because they get destroyed. So in that case, like we weren't going to buy it. Or a patron, I'm not sure if you get cases where patrons request things that either are already in the system, that are already available, or things that just haven't been released yet. We'll get those occasionally. So, but yeah, if it makes sense for us to purchase, I'll go ahead and do it. But I don't. For me at least, it's not always quite. I don't quite just like buy simply because someone requested it. I kind of consider things a little bit more. Not that there's anything wrong with just purchasing it straight away. I totally understand.
Yeah, our purchase requests, we have a database for each selector, so it gets kind of assigned out to us based on what we select. I usually get maybe about 4 or 5 a week, just depending on what they're interested in. A lot of them are maybe like UK books that haven't been published in the US yet. Some pre-pub stuff, or just a lot of authors will actually put a request in. Authors from out of town. I don't know how they get, they just come in and just put in like, this is my book and please consider adding it. So we get local authors and authors out of town that do put in requests as well. I think Molly, she's our collection management manager, and she says she has to get a canned letter ready just to send out to people who are sending emails all the time, just to saying, you know, how can I get my book into your system, or do you want to purchase it, or things like that. So I think it's happening a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, the local authors is, yeah, I guess I kind of spoke too freely. I don't really buy those if it's obvious it's the author requesting it. Yeah, that's just, I know if they're not going to promote yourself, who's going to promote you, but we really don't buy local author books unless they're coming here, and then we'll buy one, or unless they're, you know, they're bigger. But yeah, local authors are interesting. And I just wanted to kind of just go back to what I was saying earlier about it's hard, like with someone like Madison, you know, you get 5 to 10 a week. I definitely couldn't say yes to that many, but just an example of like us being able to buy something that somebody was suggesting. We had a guy come in, he wasn't really complaining, but he was on the verge of complaining and being kind of upset that he couldn't find some political book in the system. And a staff member told us, well, you can always suggest a purchase. And that really, like, you know, calmed him down a little bit. And he was happy to hear that. And I don't even know if he ended up requesting it, but just the fact that he kind of felt like he was heard a little bit more. And then he left pretty much happy. I don't know why he didn't suggest the book he wanted, but it's kind of nice. It just gives you some legs to stand on. And we've been lucky. We haven't had like a full, what is the word I'm looking for? Like a full challenge. We've had people complain, but nobody really like submit the official form or, you know, talk to the director about it. So we've been lucky in that regard.
And that certainly makes me think about people who fill out book challenge forms. Sometimes that's what they need, right? Needing to fill out that form and have their voice heard. And I never thought about that in terms of the patron suggestion form too. That's really brilliant. I know that everybody here is from Dane County, and I'm wondering what you do, and this might be more of a Madison thing, and it might not even be of interest, but somebody mentioned books published in the UK. Do you have resources for materials that are published outside of the US? Is that important to you?
I think I was told that not to order them, but I see other locations have them. So like, yes, I'll order them if, you know, like, I think it was like Enid Blyson, I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she was a popular request and they wanted all her books. So I just said, okay, other locations have them, so I will purchase them too. But now, like, was it Alice Osman? She has a lot of teen books that are still UK publications, which will come out, I think, in the US within the next year or so, but they're already in our library system. And so I'm just thinking like, oh, okay, I can only go to Amazon to buy these UK published books. And should I, shouldn't I? They show up on the purchase alerts. So yeah, I'm kind of like waiting till the end of the budget and see like, okay, if I have money left over, I'll buy them. But right now I'm not.
Yeah, they're for us, they're just that I'm aware of, there hasn't been enough of a demand for materials published outside of the US, and typically if there is interest in that sort of thing, it's usually just a matter of waiting 4 or 6 months, however long, until it is published in the States. I personally am not willing to sort of go to the go to the extra effort, especially if the demand is pretty minimal.
Right. Once again, another example where outer library alone can be of use there. So we're coming up on to almost 10 to 2. So I'm thinking about how we can wrap up and continue to move forward. My thought is I've got a couple of pages of notes that I will add to our Google document note with as many links to resources as possible. I might follow up with those of you who maybe mentioned something that I had never heard of. Forward, for example, Matt, see if they have an online presence. I mean, I'll look for something. I think that so many of our colleagues will find these resources so interesting. I also like the idea of maybe coming back around and having a discussion about like how you do it, the procedures, like how Matt started out the conversation, maybe even identifying a few people and having a panel discussion about what works for you. Not in November, we won't do it right away, but I'm thinking about, the future. Ultimately, we want this user group to help everybody, to be of use, to make your lives and jobs easier and more pleasant and maybe even a little enjoyable. So if you think of things that would help or things you want to talk about, you can let Tracy or me know, especially if it is inclusive services. Check in with Mark if you have any resources or any questions, or me. And I'm excited about moving forward with this. And we'll let other people know. We'll let more people know. I'm really happy with the group that we had. Thank you for all of your discussion and recommendations. Are there any closing questions or thoughts?
Oh, thanks for putting this together. Yeah, looking forward to seeing
Great.
sort of what other input we can gather.
Talk to
Great.
your other peers from other libraries too about this, and maybe we can drum up some more participation.
A few people contacted me, asking for the recording. So I know there's interest in it.
Good.
And I've heard from a lot of people who've said, oh, I want to get back to doing that again. That's one of the reasons why I entered the field, was for collection development. So we're going to build some more interest, I'm sure of it.
Good.
Okay, everybody. Well, have a great rest of the week, and keep us posted. Let us know if you're reading anything that you really enjoy.
Yes.
We'll have our own little informal book club too.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good one,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
So I'm going to stop recording.